Having been brutally defeated and publicly humiliated alongside Donald Trump himself, Republican Speaker Mike Johnson ran from reporters at the end of a disastrous press conference in which he tried to downplay the significance of his defeat and humiliation and an upcoming key Epstein files-related vote that he and the Republicans are destined to lose. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we're actually going to skip to the end first because I want you to see how desperate Mike Johnson is to get the hell out of here, having been defeated so utterly. Take a look.
Guys, we're not making this up, and you can take it to your counsel at your outlet's offices and have them review it, and they'll tell you the same thing. This should have been done in a much more careful manner, and it was not. And I'm going to point out again, when the authors were asked to fix it, they said they weren't interested in doing that. Okay, why? Because this is a raw and obvious political exercise. Again, I'm just going to leave you with this question. You should go ask them all. If you were so concerned about the Epstein files and protecting the victims, why didn't you do a darn thing about it for the 4 years of the Biden administration? All this stuff was sitting in a warehouse, and nobody said a word about it. They didn't care. Now they're doing it. We all know why, because they're trying to attack President Trump. That's it. Thank you. Thank you.
So Mike Johnson is desperate to get the hell out of there, and I don't blame him. I mean, he has just been exposed as an unprincipled, hypocritical loser, and ineffective, too, because he just got his ass kicked despite all the power at his and Trump and Vance and Bondi and Patel's disposal. They got defeated by Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie. That is pretty embarrassing. So let's jump back to the beginning. This is Mike Johnson desperately trying to clean up the mess that he and Trump have created vis-a-vis the key Epstein vote in the House that he's going to lose.
Here, we spent the last 6 weeks in our districts, most of the members of the House, at least the House Republicans did at least, 6 weeks they spent in their district, and many of them will tell you, and they've said publicly and privately, they did some of the best work of their career because they were right there with their constituents at home in their districts, in their counties, and their parishes, in our case in Louisiana, working with their constituents and helping them navigate the consequences of the Democrats' pointless political games in the shutdown.
Except the polling says otherwise. The polling says the vast majority of the country blame you and Donald Trump more than any Democrat. So it sounds like you guys got your asses kicked there, too. Man, it's one defeat after another for you guys. Pathetic.
Objectives. But with so many pressing issues on our plate, just very frustratingly to us, the Democrats are delaying that work even further with a political show vote. They're forcing a political show vote on the Epstein files. So we're just going to address that right at the top here this morning. Because they've spent so much time, the Democrats have, spinning the facts and trying to confuse the people, that I wanted to come in this morning and just clearly explain for the people back home how we got here and why this vote is happening right now.
Again, this is a desperate attempt at spin. The polling on this is atrocious for Trump and for Mike Johnson. The American people are squarely with the Democrats on this. And so it's Mike Johnson's desperate attempt to say, actually, what's really going on is we're the ones who are for transparency. The Democrats are not. Nobody's buying it, Mike.
So it's fair for the American people to ask the question, why now? Why suddenly are they so interested? They have such an urgent interest in the Jeffrey Epstein matter. The truth is simple and straightforward and obvious for anyone who is willing to look at it objectively. Clearly, this is a political exercise for Democrats and a few others, sadly, and it is as deceitful and dishonest as their pointless stunt to shut down the government. Same ideology behind this. Democrats are trying to use the Epstein matter as a political weapon to distract from their own party's failures. And in a desperate attempt, they're trying to somehow tie President Trump to the scandal.
Yes, Democrats are desperately trying to tie Trump to that thing he's been tied to for decades. Remember, Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein were best friends. Trump had more photos taken with Trump. Trump and Epstein had more photos, I should say, taken together than Epstein and any Democrat, okay? They were like this. The recently released emails are, if not a smoking gun, I mean, absolutely embarrassing and suggestive, because Epstein in those emails says that Donald Trump knew all about the shit that Epstein was doing to girls, even though Epstein, or rather Trump, denied the fact that he knew what was going on. So it's so funny how Mike Johnson's trying to. Democrats are just trying to, tell Americans all that stuff that Donald Trump and Jeffrey talking about their relationship together. They're trying to create a real relationship that we've had documentation of for decades. How nefarious are the Democrats with their time travel, going back and, arranging, photographs and videotapes of Epstein and Trump together in the late 80s and 90s and early 2000s. And they're just so nefarious, pointing out shit that's fact. He's pathetic.
DOJ or the FBI has already reviewed it and determined it is not credible. It is false information. Doing this and requiring this to come out could ruin the reputations of completely innocent people.
So what's funny about that is, here, again, this just goes to show Mike Johnson's not dumb. He's just morally inferior and unprincipled and backed into a really awkward position because his cult leader is really stupid, right? So Johnson's like, well, the Trump Justice Department says there's nothing to investigate. There's nothing credible to do here. That's why they ended the investigation. But then Donald Trump publicly ordered Pam Bondi to investigate Bill Clinton, Reid Hoffman, and Larry Summers. So you can't have it both ways, Mike. This is where you always lose. We always win and you always lose, and you're always going to be humiliated here. Any door you go through ends in you losing the debate and you losing the argument because it's contradicted by the facts. If there's nothing credible to investigate, and therefore anything that's released was just spiteful reputational damage to people who are otherwise not guilty, then Donald Trump was objectively wrong for ordering Pam Bondi just 2 days ago to investigate Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, and Reid Hoffman. So Donald Trump loses no matter what, and it puts you in the position of having to condemn one or the other, but he's trying to have his cake and eat it too. He's trying to simultaneously say, there's nothing to see here, which is why we can't release the files. But also there is something to see here, which is why it's okay for Trump to order the investigation of Democrats he doesn't like. This is, again, why Mike Johnson always loses.
This up and just say that Republicans support maximum transparency. We always have. The President of the United States supports maximum transparency. You've heard him say it in his own words.
You've heard him say things. He says he supports transparency, so obviously he does. Just ignore all the times and actions and shit that he said and done to contradict that. If you ignore the matters of substance and if you believe his lies, then yeah, he supports transparency. And you can see Mike Johnson trying not to smile because even he knows he's full of shit. If Trump really supported maximum transparency, he'd snap his fingers and release the Epstein files today. But he's not doing that because he doesn't support maximum transparency. So again, you lose.
So what am I to do as a leader in a situation like this? I call my counterpart in the Senate, Leader Thune, and I talked him through this with him and shared our deep concerns. And of course, they share those concerns as well. And so I'm very confident that when this moves forward in the process, if and when it is processed in the Senate, which there's no certainty that will be, that they will take the time methodically to do what we have not been allowed to do in the House, to amend this discharge petition and to make sure that these protections are there.
In other words, Mike Johnson saying, I asked John Thune, the Republican leader of the Senate, to delay this and to potentially kill it unless we can find a way to legislatively tinker with the language in a way that benefits Donald Trump personally. Johnson knows he's lost in the House. He's got his ass kicked, and now he's scrambling to try to spin it, but he's hoping that the Senate will succeed where he's failed.
The president campaigned on this idea of transparency. In the name of transparency, he released the MLK files. In the name of transparency, he released the JFK files. Why not, in the name of transparency, call on the president to just release the full Epstein files? He doesn't even need Congress to have this vote.
Well, the president's made very clear his position over the last few days, his truth post over the weekend and what he said. He had a press gaggle yesterday, said the same thing. He says release all the files. He's been saying that. What he was counting.
So the report is again, this is the thing. I'm telling you guys, believe it or not, Mike Johnson does a hell of an impression of a stupid person, but he's not. He's just so dishonest and so cultishly loyal to a stupid person that he's forced to adopt this persona. So the reporter asked, well, Trump doesn't need this discharge petition if he really supports maximum transparency, which is what you claimed. So why don't you ask him to just snap his fingers and release the Epstein files? And do you hear what Mike Johnson said? Well, he said it on Truth Social. He supports the release of the Epstein files. What a non-answer that totally elides the question asked. If that's true, Mike, then it entails that Trump should simply release the Epstein files, and we can skip this embarrassing House vote for you. We can skip whatever drama is coming up in the Senate and the potential drama of a Trump presidential veto. Just have the guy release the files. And Johnson is unable to answer substantively because he knows he's screwed.
Do you acknowledge that by voting for this determination today, that it was a reversal for you? That you could have put this on the floor months ago and may not have even needed to have a discharge petition if you had supported it months ago?
No, it's not a reversal, as I just explained. We had big problems with the discharge from the moment it was filed. We talked with the authors. There was lots of people that went and pleaded with them to fix it so that everybody could be together because we've been for maximum transparency. But again, there's a reason you have rules and processes here to ensure.
This is the problem. Mike Johnson says it's going to pass. I'll probably even vote for it, but it's really not a reversal because we asked for things. We have substantive disagreements with the legislative content of the bill. Okay, well, if we take you at face value, then that means you should vote against it, right? See how he wants to have his cake and eat it too, because of course he doesn't actually have substantive issues with the language of the bill. He just knows it's politically embarrassing for Trump, which is why he tried to kill it. He knows he and Trump failed spectacularly. And so now he's trying to save face. That's the only plausible explanation, because if you seriously had substantive issues with the bill such that you not only didn't support it in the beginning, you actively opposed it, then you would stand on principle and actively oppose it now. The fact that you're folding means you're doing this for political expediency. QED, you're an unprincipled, hypocritical loser who should be made fun of.
I'll tell you, there's a handful of Republicans, Judiciary Committee members, and a few others who are really struggling, as I have been, about whether or not they could even vote yes today because of this. Because we don't have an absolute guarantee that this will be fixed in the Senate. I have a high degree of confidence in that, and that's why that's why I'll be voting yes today.
I mean, we don't know that this thing will actually get taken care of. I'm going to vote for it anyway. I'm going to vote for it. All right, we're going to do one last clip. So funny of Johnson getting humiliated here. No wonder he wanted to cut and run. One more clip.
Reading through the bill, though, I guess I'm confused because the bill specifically says the Attorney General may withhold or redact portions related to child sexual abuse materials as defined in the law. Anything jeopardizing federal investigation specifically says it can withhold anything containing personal identifiable information of victims, personal medical files, whenever survivors are comfortable with that. All of these things are actually in this bill.
They're not. Let me give you an example. And we could be up here for a long time. I'll litigate it with you because I brought all this stuff. All right. Okay. So the first one you mentioned. Okay. So here's the HRS 581. This is the discharge. Okay. It says on page 5, redact anything that depicts or quote depicts or contains child sexual abuse material (CSAM) as defined under 18 U.S.C. 2256. Okay. All right. So you go to 18 U.S.C. 2256. Definitions of the chapter. Nowhere in this section, okay, go look it up, all right, does it contain the definition of child sexual abuse material. So I used to litigate federal cases, and I would challenge statutes in court, okay? The language is very important and very precise. If it's not listed here and this were to become law, child sexual abuse materials are not included. They're not included for redaction, which means the Attorney General and someone there, if they interpret the discharge in the statute that it passes directly, and literally, as they're supposed to do, they're required to do under the law, then you're going to have things that would qualify under child sexual abuse materials. You have child pornography included in the distribution of this stuff. We can't go for that. And why did they? No, it's not up to the Attorney General because the way it's listed in the document. No, it's not. It's not because it doesn't reference the right code section. So we could go through every one of these things. We have had a small army of lawyers going through it, because I want to make sure that all of my concerns, because I read it the first time initially and I thought, whoa, this is way out of bounds. We have in fact, we'll put on the speaker.gov, I'll put it on the website here when we leave. You'll see the summary of the legal analysis, and it goes through point by point, and it points to the specific sections in the discharge. Guys, we're not making this up, and you can...
You are making this up, which is why he's getting fact-checked by the attorney, or by the lawyers, or excuse me, the reporters here. The Attorney General. would have the discretion to do the things that Mike Johnson is afraid won't get done. It's just, it's stunning to me. This is pathetic. This happened, of course, after the Epstein presser, which resulted in a high-profile humiliation for Trump. But yeah, no wonder he is so desperate to get the hell out of there. Pretty pathetic shit. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.